Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Hello, people, and welcome to Footy Judgment. Welcome to the National League. When I'm calm, I'm not like psyched, and I'm not like gassed like the day after Inter game or the day after when Don debated just about Rice and Caicedo again for round 2. And that stream was legendary. We had 1,500 people joining us on that stream, and the people were just crazy about it. People said that Caicedo's not even better than Partey.
I mean, there's a time and a place for arguments. I wouldn't say trying to do a dick measuring contest between Caicedo and Rice works after Rice has just got man of the match against Real Madrid and Caicedo was spending his midweek going to fucking Poland for Legia Warsaw. Can
you let me finish? Tom was doing his calculations about the rebuild at Liverpool and who they're going to sign up top because, of course, you saw Mohamed Salah is staying with Van Dijk staying. But Tom, I'm telling you behind the scenes, Tom is smiling and everything. But I'm just going to let you on a secret, people that are watching. Tom is not happy because he thinks in 1 year they'll be in the exact same place where they're going to be having to negotiate another contract with the two players.
2026, you got to do it all again. But I'm not stressed about that at the minute.
Same again. But listen, hit that like button. 200 people joining. And guys, if you haven't watched Rory's vlog about the game, you have to watch that. He started at his house in the metro, whatever they call it in England, subway, whatever we call it in America, subway, we call it here metro. I don't know what they call it in Tube in England. Went all the way to the Emirates, sat up there with the VIPs and witnessed the Rice goal. So, and you have to see the joy on his face. Dan, of course, is so happy that they Lega Warsaw. I actually think this is the worst. I actually think it's the worst side I have watched in a quarterfinal in a European competition. And then has to go. He had players that they wouldn't play in my Sunday league. And I'm sorry to say that, but it's actually true.
You mean but listen, we're gonna players that bad?
Oh, have you the striker, the guy that took the shot when he opened up his body? Oh my God, I was watching this and I'm like, what are you doing? It's horrific.
It was just the position that made it difficult for them.
Yeah, Onana as well. Another howler for Onana. Another howler for Onana. We cannot say otherwise. But listen, we got to start with the Mohamed Salah and Van Dijk news. Big news. How's everyone doing? First, you're over the moon, Rory. Dan is so happy that you won against Liga Warsaw. Tom is so happy. And I'm happy as well.
I mean, the levels of happiness are, I'm keeping the best player on the planet and the best centre-back in the world. Rory's just beating Real Madrid 3-0 to pretty much secure himself in a Champions League semi-final. Inter have pretty much got one foot in their semi-final. and Dan beat Legia Warsaw in a Conference League that he doesn't really care about because he needs Champions League more than anything. I think the levels of happiness are ever so slightly skewed one way.
Yeah. Talk to me, Tom, about Mohamed Salah. There are a lot of... Listen, he signed a £400 a week contract for 2 years.
Just that.
Cheap. Okay, now I'll take that. 400 quid a week.
I think he's at isn't it 400k a week?
Yeah, 400k a week. You said £400 a week.
Oh, sorry, I forgot the K. It's all right.
Well, I was going to say that's a fucking mega deal for us. That no wonder
It's
it took
all
so long. No, this is exactly what we needed. You know, it's been dragging on all season. It's been the story that somehow hasn't derailed the season, but it's been constantly there. The 3 players. I always maintained confidence that Salah and Van Dijk would sign, and I'm glad that we finally got over the line. He deserves that money. It's not my money. I'm just glad that we're keeping him at the football club. He's the best player on the planet, in my opinion, has been all season. 40-odd goal contributions in the Premier League, but we have, 7 games now to get 3 assists or 4 assists to break that record. He's, with this 2-year deal, he's pretty much on course, in my opinion, to break the all-time record in the Premier League for most goal contributions. He's only 40 off that. If he averages 20 goal contributions a season for the next 2 years, he breaks that. So, you know, Mohamed Salah will do that. I
don't think he's going to average 220 goals a season, though.
No, he doesn't need 20 goals. He needs 20 goal contributions. He can do 15. He can do 15 goals.
That is definitely not worth 400k a week.
No, that's just for a record. I'm not saying that's what he will do. I'm just saying for him to break the all-time Premier League record of most goal contributions by a single player, he needs 40 goals and assists.
That's it?
So that's it.
Oh my! Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. This is like the level of greatness that we're talking about, and I'm getting to keep this player at my.
Hold on, I thought there's already 60 goals between him and.
No, that's goals only. So goal contribution. So how many goals and assists do you have?
Goals and assists. Yeah.
All right. I get you. I get what you're saying.
But I'm just glad that we're keeping him at the football club. Van Dijk as well. You know, the captain. He's been. I know that people say, "Oh, he can't handle better on the knees." It's not been a great last week for him, but on the whole, this season he's been the second most important figure in us winning the league. He's massively important as we go through. The pair of them are massively important as we go into this summer because, you know, this is going to be a summer of overhaul at the football club. We've won the league. Touch wood. By the way, if we were to somehow not win this league, you would never see me on any form of content ever again. I'm just letting everyone know that you would never see me on the show ever again. So maybe it's an enjoy me while I'm here type thing. If the Reds just want to keep taking the piss, but you know we've got a summer of overhaul coming up. A lot of players potentially on the way out. A lot of players coming in. It's important that we have an element of stability at the football club and keeping Mohamed Salah and Van Dijk, your 2 best players for the next 2 years. That is that stability that the manager and the club needs. So I'm very happy it's done, and I'm sure a lot of rivals saw the news break the other day and went, fuck's sake.
Can I ask you something for it? So Mohamed Salah was offered an astronomical salary by Saudi Arabia, like £100 million a year, which is at Liverpool he makes about like 25, or if I'm not mistaken, or 30, something like this, and image rights and everything. Why do you think Salah turned down the Saudi contract? Why is he staying 2 more years at Liverpool? He achieved everything basically, especially because we know that this season he's gonna break the record for the most GA ever. So he will always be in the history books. He already broke the record before. He's getting older. Why is he staying at Liverpool? Why did he turn out that lucrative offer from Saudi Arabia?
Because Mohamed Salah genuinely loves this football club, and it's a rare thing to have nowadays. A player who has this much love for the football club, and especially, you know, with the whole carry-on about the local lad who will not be named until he signs a contract or he fucks off, with the whole shit he's caused by not having this loyalty, not having this love. It's nice to see that the greatest Premier League player in our club's history does, and he wants to stay, and he wants to keep performing at a high level, and he wants to keep winning trophies with the football club. He has achieved everything. He's got 1 of everything, 2 of a couple things, but he wants 3. He wants to get 3 Premier Leagues. He wants to get 2 Champions League. He wants to break records in the Premier League. That's a man with drive and determination, and that's one of the big things about him. And I'm glad that he's staying at the. I'm glad that he loves the football club. The fans adore him, and there's futures here for the next 2 years. And I think he understands. I think we all understand that the level in the Saudi league isn't exactly.
It's not even close to the Premier League. Like there's no comparison.
I think he thinks, and we all think, that Mohamed Salah's got another couple of years left at the very top of the game.
Yes.
There's no point in spending them in the Saudi league. You spend them competing in the Champions League, competing for the Premier League, and then when it is time to go, I personally don't want him to go to Saudi. I'd keep giving him contracts until he retires. I think he'll always be good enough for Liverpool. And selfishly, I want to see one of these great players from the Jurgen Klopp era retire at the football club. I want to see players retire at my football club. I miss the whole farewell that you do to them. Because, yes, you do a farewell. Oh, go enjoy Saudi. But I want to see someone go farewell to football at my club. And we can do this proper big celebration. Plus, it'd be a bit symbolic of like the end of an era. End of that era at this football club. You know, when that player retires, it's kind of like the fall of the curtains on it. So I think we've got to remember we're all romantics about football. That's why we're all to watch football. And for me, the romanticism about football is seeing your great players play out their career at the club. And that's why I want Salah or Van Dijk to retire at the club.
Problem with that, though, Van Dijk's probably more capable because of his position. But I feel like now the problem with that is that you can continue your career at such a lower level of football because of Saudi, effectively. Like, he'd either have to retire at a level where he could still very easily go and play in Saudi, or he'd have to stay at Liverpool to the point where, like, he'd be at the club and you wouldn't want him playing because of the gap between where you want Liverpool competing for titles and where he could still play at Saudi. And I just don't feel like he'd do that. But like, because it would just, as romantic as it is,
that's the logical answer. It doesn't work out now in the modern football world for you to have players retire at your football club, because they ultimately, by the time they're retiring, they're probably not good enough to play, and you don't really want them there. And there's the whole time.
Well, look at De Bruyne. I think De Bruyne is the best example. He'd probably been better off leaving last summer, really. But like, again, would you want to keep him at City again now at the level he's at now, but still earning, however much money? That it's probably easier to just let them go. And you can still have a good send-off. You can still have that kind of,
It's the romanticism of it. I just miss when your great players retired at the club, rather than me having to go on Twitter and see videos from the Saudi Pro League of them scoring a back post tapping off a scrappy corner against Al Ettifaq and going,
Tom, who was the last player that retired at your club?
Carragher.
Right, okay, I was just wondering. Yeah.
Like, Gerrard didn't even retire. Steven Gerrard didn't even retire at Liverpool. He went to LA Galaxy for 2 years. And yes, people say it doesn't count, but it's symbolic in a way, isn't it? You know, I just want one of these great players from this era who give me the best memories of my lifetime supporting the football club to call it quits at the football club and say that's it for me in football. This is where it peaked. And this is where it ends, and that's what I want. So, I mean, look, I don't think he'll happen, but I'm just glad to stay in.
Yeah, we had Arteta retire at the club, like as club captain.
Arteta is not a club legend.
Well, he is now.
But he wasn't at that time. Like,
not that. Nowhere near the level.
You're very rational, Rory. Arteta never won anything at Arsenal.
No.
Won some cups, like.
No, I'm not trying to compare.
Henry, Bergkamp, Perez, Ljungberg.
Yeah,
but Arteta was never because there are a lot of people that retired at other clubs, but they're not. Arteta is not a legend. Now he is. I'm sorry, I'm being irrational here.
You never let me get to the end of what I was trying to say. I'm not comparing Mikel Arteta
to
Mohamed
apologies.
Salah. I'm saying he retired at Arsenal, but he retired at the age of 34. So the point is, you've got to retire, like to have been playing at that level, and Arsenal were nowhere near at that point the level that Liverpool are now. But to retire at that point, you've got to be doing it really in like that age bracket. Whereas for Salah, because of how well he's kept himself, he could probably go till he's 37, 38. I think he could probably earn 400-500 million quid in Saudi after the next 2 years. And you're like, as much as you don't want to see him knocking in tap-ins at the back post, knowing that he's earned probably 10 million quid for that tap-in. You know.
Yeah,
That
I think for me and others, sort of my age and similar, Mohamed Salah is the first real player, is the first real legend that we've seen in terms of from start to finish in their Liverpool career. I didn't get to see the first years of Gerrard. I got to see him the back end of his best years and the back end of his career, but I didn't get to see from like 2001 to 2004, 05, 06, that era. I've got to see I've got to see from appearance 1 to right now of Mohamed Salah. I've got to see him from goal 1 to goal 243. When you look at in your history books, you'd always see these names at the top of the goal scoring or the assist charts from like the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and you can never really appreciate it because you never got to see it, and it was so long ago. I've got to see the third highest goal scorer in my football club's history score every single one of his 243 goals. That means a little bit. When you see it all, it means something to you. So that's why I have that romanticism, and I want him to retire at the football club, and I want to see his big send-off, and I want to see us treat him with the love and respect he deserves when it is time to call the curtain. And Van Dijk as well, I'm doing all this about Salah, but Van Dijk as well, he's the best centre-back I've ever seen play for this football club. He's the best centre-back we've had probably since Alan Hansen. He's probably better than Alan Hansen based on
he's the best centre-back, period, in the Premier League. It's just established.
Yeah, like Virgil van Dijk he's been the highest level centre-back in terms of their peak in this century. No, but bar Cannavaro, who I know Cannavaro won a Ballon d'Or, but I'd say Van Dijk, that level that he got to in 2018, 2019, I've not seen a centre-back hit that level.
Dan is working on the fail compilation. Just be careful.
I'll pull out the John Terry one again.
No, but I get what you say.
I'll pull out Nigel Rio Coca dropping him on his arse.
Does anybody think that Salah signing a 2-year contract is going to prevent Liverpool from doing the handover for that right side or getting someone at that stature or something like this, that they now have to revamp the striker and the left winger before they even get the handover for that right wing? Because that is what I keep, especially with that much money, though, to be honest with you. Like, this guy is never going to, for the people that said that he's not going to play the same amount of minutes, you're not giving 400k to someone who's not going to play every single game, just basically, right? That doesn't happen at football clubs.
The problem is, there's never going to be a handoff with that right wing position at Liverpool.
But you have to have a handoff at some point.
I don't think you can now because of what Mohamed Salah is. The man plays every single minute of every single game pretty much and doesn't drop
That's
off.
My point, though.
But so how do you sell that to another player? How do you sell that to a player and go, you're not going to play? Federico Chiesa is a 27-year-old player who has shown that who was at a world-class level at one point in his career, and the man's been relegated to 50 minutes off the bench this season because you cannot get in at right wing over Mohamed Salah. The man is 33 and putting in the best year of his career. It's hard to sell that to a player to go, listen, you'll play when he's injured, but he never gets injured, or you'll play when he's in bad form, but he's just put the best season of his career forward and he's the most important player for the team. Enjoy. It's easy to do it at centre-back because there's another centre-back position. You can partner Van Dijk. You can't exactly you can be the partner right winger to Salah. So I think because of how good he is, he kind of fucks it in that sense where we can't just get this young... The only thing we can do is buy someone very young and loan them out for 2 years and hope that by the time that those 2 years are done, they come back and they're ready. Because you can't exactly have Salah being a backup to Salah to someone.
Yeah, I think you could bring in someone that's maybe like 19, 20 years old, loan them maybe back to the club that they're already at, say, we'll loan you for 1 year, then you're going to come in for a year after that and be like an understudy to Salah in his final year. So you might not play every game. You'll get game time. You'll be the understudy. And then, they're going to have to convince someone like that of a project. Because like you say...
I think they might just use Ben Doak, If they don't sell Ben Doak, they might just use Ben Doak for that.
Ben Doak?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe.
You're going to make Arsenal's mistake if Salah gets injured or something, you're not going to have an adequate replacement on that right side.
I mean, we've got Chiesa. He's adequate. He just doesn't play.
I actually think Chiesa's going to leave and go back to Serie A, to be honest with you.
The problem,
I don't think we'll let Chiesa go. I think he costs £12 million. That's too cheap to let him go.
The problem with Chiesa is that if Salah got injured for any serious amount of time, and if Chiesa came in and started 2 games, he'd probably be injured. Like he's like what we've had with Tomiyasu, where you can't rely on someone to be a backup if they are also consistently injured.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I wouldn't. I know who I'd want for right wing, but I just don't think it'd happen. I'd love for us to be able to wrangle a deal for Matthias Sule, but I just don't think we're going to get anything. I don't think we can get that done. I think he needs to be playing week in, week out, and we can't guarantee that. And I don't know if Roma would do this whole loan back thing, But I think he's an incredible little right winger. I know that the numbers haven't necessarily been there this year as they were last year, but he's been in a Roma team that up until Ranieri came in was so poor, and he's still provided big moments for them. So, replacing Salah is always going to be hard, and I don't need to think about that right now, which is a good thing. I can just appreciate what I've got for the next few years. But if you had to ask me right now, it would be Matthias Sule and try and get a deal done like Mamadashvili, but with him. Because I think he's got all the minerals to be a top right winger.
For me, I'm just happy that I'm going to get to see Salah 2 more years at Liverpool.
Are you sure, Mo? Are you sure that, the poor Egyptian children that he tried to guilt trip me with last time he signed the contract aren't going to go home?
No, he's a selfish guy that doesn't want to feed the Egyptian poor kids. He doesn't want to. So
he's only on 400 grand a week. Fucking hell. Some poor Egyptian child's going to go starving because of that. Come on, Mo.
No, but to be honest, I'm so happy to watch him and Van Dijk again, because I think if they both left at the same time along with Trent, there was going to be a long rebuild. And if I'm looking from a neutral perspective, I don't think FSG will be able to replace both of them. Now FSG can go and get a Dilap, or can get a left winger, and they'll be all right. They can go get another center back, like to just replace Konate maybe if he leaves and goes to PSG or something. Unless they're going to renew Konate. And that's actually a big deal about Konate, though. Just a big deal about Konate is like renewing Van Dijk. Does that mean that Konate goes to PSG now? Because he hasn't signed. But let me just do this. Big up Aboud for the super chat, for supporting the channel. Habibi, big up AMD for dropping the 50p all the way. Big up Habibi, thank you so much. An Arsenal fan that is happy. Everyone is happy at Arsenal. To be honest, but I'm just actually going to show you a video when we get to the Arsenal section that you guys, I need Dan to respond to it actually, since he's a Londoner. But go ahead. Thank you, Aboud. Habibi, W's guys in the chat for Aboud for dropping the 50p to support the channel. Big up to everyone that has been absolutely very generous to us over the last 2-3 years. Thank you so much. This show and all the other shows and the numbers. Arsenal on YouTube, the numbers are crazy actually. We got 600 people and we're only like 20 minutes in. So just to let you know, I haven't even spoken Arsenal yet. Mohamed Salah as well broke. Like there is people that care about Liverpool yet.
The thing with Konate is I think that extending Salah and Van Dijk and the whole thing that's come out about them being fully on board for the project and behind the manager and what the club's planning on doing across the next couple of years, that probably gives me more confidence that the likes of Konate might sign on. If they'd all left, then I'd say he's out the door. But the fact that the big players, the key players, are fully behind the project, that should convince the players like Konate, who would be the ready, who still plays week in, week out. But the moment we get to 2027 and maybe Van Dijk does leave, Konate becomes centre-back number 1, that the project is there. And if these players are backing it, you should back it as well. So I think that getting them to sign those contracts is big for keeping players at the club as well. Not only convince the players to join, players want to play with Mohamed Salah and Van Dijk, and be sure that Liverpool is competing at the very top level. Keeping these players does that, and it should also mean that the players who are at the club who are going, does the club have ambition to stay at the top? We've offered the record contract out to Mohamed Salah, and we don't know how much Van Dijk's been offered yet. That hasn't come out. I'm sure it'll come out in time, but I'm sure Van Dijk will be put on record money for a defender that the football club's ever offered. So we do clearly have a level of ambition there. And I'm just glad that we're finally getting everything.
Finally, FSG in. We need planes flying, funded by Osam. FSG in like he did FSG out. That's only fair for Fenway Group.
It will be forever FSG out, but I do respect the ambition that they're showing in the market for this manager in that sense. You know, it's just about nailing this summer window now. The manager deserves that after what he's done this season with you know, where we are in the league with no signs bar Mr. Chiesa. So hopefully in the summer we get him the pieces that he needs: a left back, a centre back. You know, we need a right back now, a midfielder, maybe, you know, depending on sales up front, 2 strikers and a winger. You know, it's a lot of overhaul, but keeping key players like Salah and Van Dijk enables you to have such a solid base to do that overhaul off of, and allows you to take more gambles on the likes of a Delap, because you know that you've got the guarantee of Mohamed Salah, and you can gamble on Huijsen because you've got the guarantee of Van Dijk, who can always give you a solid, sustainable level.
Yeah, I was like this. Dan, you got anything to say about the Salah thing? Oh, or you don't think that it affects Chelsea at all? Because it does affect Arsenal and Man City. Wallahi, that's a genuine question. That is not a banter question. Wallahi, that's a genuine question. I've had someone tweet about Chelsea. It came on my timeline saying that, by the way, Arsenal signing Gyokeres or signing, it doesn't affect us. We have to worry about making Champions League first before we think about the title contenders. And I'm like, I looked at this and like, maybe that's some Chelsea fans think about that this way. They're like, we don't need to worry about the title contenders today. We need to worry about something different than this. That's why I asked the question, actually.
Yeah, I think by the time we're talking about Salah affecting Chelsea, it will be a discussion that's probably Salah, whether or not he's done a season, maybe 2 in this contract, and he'll be on his way out. So I just think that Chelsea are too far away from Liverpool for it to have any real effect on us, and where we might be affected by it, to be honest.
So
because I
go
don't
back to Salah.
really,
Where do you think Salah? Yeah, go ahead. Sorry,
I don't think Chelsea will be in a title race directly with Liverpool in this time. It might be a race for top 4 or something like that, but I just don't see it, to be honest with you. I don't think Chelsea can be brought into the Mo Salah conversation, apart from the fact that look at the career he's gone on to have since leaving.
What do you think about actually Salah signing the contract? Do you think it's the right thing to do?
Well, it must be. He must believe he can play at the highest level still. I think he could still go to Saudi Arabia because of who he is and the stature that he holds in that part of the world at 35, 36. I don't think that'll be a problem. So, yeah, for sure, I think it's the right thing to do for all parties involved, to be honest. I think it secures Liverpool financially if they want to sell him in a year, if they can get a fee for him. And if they want to keep him for another 2 and let him go on a free, then I think they get the best out of him and give that lemon one more squeeze, really.
Yeah, I'm like, we'll see how it goes, but I think it's a great news for Liverpool. At least they don't have to worry about signing a center back and a right wing today. Like, they don't need to worry about replacing these 2. You're muted.
We still need to sign a centre back.
Yeah. Okay, but you don't have to worry about replacing the best center back in the league now. It's just because he's 33, but center backs, Thiago Silva played at the highest level until he was like 39. Basically, so you don't need to worry about that.
I just can't believe it wasn't done sooner. That's the one thing I'll say with this is I don't know whether this has put Liverpool into a position of strength in terms of what they've ended up paying in wages. Do you think it got to the point where they didn't have offers that they were going to pay him as much, and then Salah's turned around and look, I'll take 400?
I don't know. I don't know. I think Van Dijk would have always had offers. I think teams like PSG would have always paid something for Van Dijk, because I think centre-backs of his ilk are a little bit hard to come by. I think it's a mixture of both, you know. I think that the players were strengthened by the Trent stuff leaking and breaking, because with him pretty much going, we all sort of went, well, you can't lose all 3. So you're going to have to sign at least one of them. So that probably strengthened the players. But with Mohamed Salah, you know, despite how good he is, the market hasn't been there yet for him. And apparently he's been shutting down Saudi League for the whole time. So he's clearly, you know, he wants to stay in Europe. And I don't think that the offers were going to appear until his contract had expired. And I don't think he was willing to take that gamble. So I think it's a mixture of both with Salah. I think it's more of a case of player strength with Van Dijk, especially since he's the captain. But yeah, that is one way of looking at it. I don't care about all that as long as he keeps playing at the high level and scoring. I don't care if he's got the good bad balls or not. You know, pay him.
I don't think there was a market for him, to be honest with you. With that much money, though, like if the reports are correct and the 400K, I don't think there is any club in Europe would have given him a signing bonus and 400k a week for 3 years in Europe. By the way,
if he'd got
that's
the
just my thinking. By the way, I'm apart from Saudi, Tom.
If he'd got the signing bonus, he wouldn't be on 400 grand a week. He's on
no
a higher
one
wage.
Give him that much money, basically. No one would have given him.
I think eventually there would have been teams that would have just went, you know what, it's Mohamed Salah. He's just put up a Ballon d'Or level season.
I don't think so.
We'll ride it for 2 years.
He's 33. It would be 33. It's too hard to give a fresh contract worth of 400k for a 33 years old. Like, it's just.
It is until all of a sudden teams start looking at his numbers and realize he's playing like a 27-year-old, and he's you know, his physical levels have maintained across 8 years. So I think when you look at the numbers, teams will be willing to take that gamble. I just don't think. I think got to look at the top teams in Europe and look at Barca. They have Lamine Yamal. They're not going to take Mohamed Salah. Real Madrid, they have Rodrigo. Plus, I don't think Salah necessarily likes that football club, but that's by the by. Bayern Munich have Michael Olise. No team in Italy can afford Salah.
400k is out of the question.
But even if there was, you know, I don't necessarily think there's a team that fits what his plans.
Yes.
PSG, they've got Barcola, they've got Doué, they've got Kvaratskhelia. They don't need a winger.
They have Dembele. They have freaking like a load of wingers.
I think the only team that in Europe that would have went, you know what, let's take the gamble on him is Bayern.
Real Madrid.
Real Madrid's a weird one.
They would have because there are a lot of clubs that will buy Rodrigo for like 100 million.
There are, but I think Real Madrid are waiting for a different type of winger.
Probably, yeah.
I think Real Madrid are waiting to see if like a Bukayo Saka or a Cole Palmer becomes available. Someone who's in the same age range as the other two, so they can have a front three that is together at the same time, rather than have Salah there who's like 8 years older than the rest. So that they just start
and someone that will retire in about 2-3 years. It won't develop with Mbappe. Yeah. I get your point. Yeah, I got it. Listen,
like I said, the only team that I think would have done it is Bayern, because I think they would have moved Elise into the 10 and had Musiala out on the left.
Last question I want to ask about Liverpool before I know you have to go. Last question. Liam Delap. Because of the 30 million, right? Do you think it's a gamble that everyone should take?
Yes.
Even as a bench player. I was actually going to ask this to Rory about even if you sign Gyokeres, you should go and get Delap and offer him a wage just because he's someone.
This is a lad who's playing for one of the worst attacking teams I've ever seen in the Premier League in Ipswich, who's on course to get 15 goals. And he's bullying defences on his own. He's got his options for support up there. Amari Hutchinson, who is wank. Jack Clark, who is wank. And Sammy Schmodix, who is wank. It's him all up on his own most of the time, and he makes it work. So for 30 million quid, that's like 10 million quid 7 years ago. Would I take a guy who got 15 Premier League goals for the equivalent of 10 million quid? You best fucking believe I would do. Every team should be looking at it. You know, I especially with Isak not being on the market, Premier League proven such a rare commodity. There's normally a tax on that. You're getting a fucking bargain deal here. You're not getting taxed on Delap. So I think every top team should be looking at Liam Delap, and I think he's got to seriously think about what he wants to do, because, you know, is he willing to try and join, you know, an Arsenal who were going to sign Gyokeres and battle it out for that number one spot, or does he want to join a team like a Chelsea where, for all intents and purposes, he'll be the number one, he'll come in and be number one, and he's just got to. He's got that level of security. I think he's got a lot to figure out there, but I'd love for us to take the gamble. He's still not my number one target. My number one target's Retegui, but Delap is high up on that list of targets that I'd want us to get signed.
We'll see what happens in the summer with Liverpool.
Big ups,
I know you gotta go. We'll continue with the show, guys. We'll talk. This is Arsenal and Chelsea talk. This? No, this is not it. It's different. No. See, I got the. It is a 3, but it's somewhere. I'm just gonna fix it now, just quickly. But listen, should we talk Chelsea first about the win yesterday, or it's not like about the top 4 and win yesterday?
There's not much to talk about.
Can I ask a question that I didn't know yesterday? Was Palmer subbed off because he was bad? He wanted to change, or was he injured? I wasn't following the substitution, because to sub Palmer at halftime and put Madueke in. Is that a tactical thing that Palmer was not? I didn't. To be honest with you, I didn't watch the game like focusing. I had family around, and the game was horrific. And Liga also was horrific. I'm like, I knew that Chelsea would win this. This is terrible. So, do you? I don't know why was he sub.
He wasn't visibly injured, but his
Because
fitness is being questioned because obviously he
okay.
didn't go on the international break, didn't play against Brentford, but wouldn't start.
Like if he was subbed off because of a tactical decision,
Well, he wasn't
that's
great
not
in the
good.
first half.
That
But
was that is not
Chelsea
good.
generally
That
weren't
is
good in
not
the
good
first
at
half.
all.
I
That's not a good
don't
sign.
think he was dragged in the sense that it was like to bring him off because it was such a big game and he wasn't doing enough. I don't think he was doing enough, to be honest, but I think there's a sense of managing minutes here. I think it's just quite confusing the way Maresca's gone about it. He's given him, 45 and maybe, what did he get, 45 or 30 in the last game, and then he's obviously played 45 here. It's just very confusing. He obviously rested a few players against Brentford, and then they didn't even start this game. So, with how Maresca's going to manage minutes is just not going to be the normal approach that we see from most managers. I don't think.
Yeah, because I didn't understand why you're 0-0. Would you sub Palmer out?
You know, when
I
people
didn't
are like
understand.
Stinker and Hooked, I don't think it was because of that.
Because
but I don't
like,
think
it was
his
tweeted.
performance was good enough, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Okay. So someone is saying that Maresca stated that we'd only get him 45 minutes, no matter regardless of the thing. Guys, we got over 600 people in the house, and we're only on 150 likes. So hit that like button, people.
Do you know who I actually thought had a pretty good game yesterday? Dewsbury Hall. I actually thought he wasn't too bad from what I've seen at times in the Chelsea show. I actually felt he was slightly improved.
I actually think when I watched, Dewsbury Hall was everywhere. I thought Madueke had good 45 minutes scoring 2 goals. It's not bad at all. I know Ahmed here, of course, the flicks and tricks merchant, thinks that Jadon Sancho is Chelsea's best player. Was Sancho Chelsea's best player?
He was up there in the discussion. I think Noni come on and obviously got a couple of goals, didn't he? But I think Sancho had a good game. I think the biggest concern Chelsea have got is that a number of these players have had a couple of good games in the Conference League now, but what opposition is that against? What's the test there? I mean, it's not like we're going to be playing teams of the equivalent of Legia Warsaw every week, is it? So,
who do you play in this weekend?
Ipswich.
Oh, you're going to win that game. You're going to smash Ipswich,
Lost
of
that,
course.
didn't we? 2-0 away.
That's away. At home, you're going to win it. Bro, if you lose to Ipswich at home, he should be sacked on the spot, like in the dressing room. With all due respect, right? Like in a top 5 race, with Newcastle the same points or 1 point behind you,
same
with
points,
a game in hand. With a game in hand, I think it's absolutely nuts.
Oh yeah, every game for Chelsea is must win going into the
just
running.
Yeah. Every game, it's actually crazy how Chelsea. You still have to play Newcastle away.
Yeah, your fixtures after it's such hard, but that's why I just feel like the selection against Brentford, it doesn't make sense.
It looks crazy now, Rory, doesn't it? Because,
especially with the context of how bad Legia Warsaw were, and the fact that you didn't even go full strength against them. Like you said,
he rested Cucurella, Neto, Jackson against Brentford. And then they didn't even start against Warsaw. It just
which is confusing. But and you might end up ruining those 2 points dropped against Brentford at the end of the season. So
these 2 points are going to be massive. The fact that you play Newcastle the last game of the week away from home is actually ridiculous. Like
week or season.
Newcastle and Forest now, I think, in the last week.
Is it Forest? And before that, it's Newcastle.
Yeah, so
I'm confused.
Massive games, couldn't they, in the run-in for it, for sure.
Hold on, you play.
It goes Newcastle away, United at home, Forest away.
Oh, that's
your final 3.
It's even horrific.
If you add all the context, so once you've played Ipswich, your final 6 games: Fulham away, which is tough, Everton at home, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away, United at home, Forest away,
and 3-4 more,
and then possibly that's tough.
Tough. It is tough. It is tough, definitely. Considering, I mean, we're looking at him being able to rotate in the Conference League, but I feel like the further you get into that, Tyreek George and players like that aren't going to get you out of trouble. Probably against like Real Betis if you get them or something like that.
If you get it,
Maresca
you don't get them until
did
the
well
final.
yesterday,
Right?
by the way. I have to give him credit for that. I think the changes he made at half-time swung the game in his favour, which I'll give him credit for because I've slated him when he hasn't done that. So I will praise him. But ultimately, I think first half, you could have the job done if you get it right at the same time and then be able to bring players off.
Ah, I thought you only slug off Maresca. You don't ever like.
No. I'm joking.
I'm just joking. What people think about.
Right.
People think that. The people think that. Just the people don't know.
The thing is, like, realistically, the opening goal is horrendous goalkeeping.
Yes.
And that opening goal really like changes the game. And then the defending for both of the second and third goals is like Madueke has so much space in the box. And then the third one, like Sancho does well to play that ball across. But when you actually look at where the defenders are compared to Madueke when the ball comes across, and he manages to nip ahead of all of them to tap it in, it wasn't the best.
That's just the levels, Rory, isn't it? Like,
that's
sheer difference.
Can I ask anyone in the chat who watched the game, or even Dan, did anyone watch the other game for the two teams that Chelsea might face in the semi-final? Does anybody know any information about these two teams? Are they good? Are they the same level as Liga Warsaw? Or
who are they?
Who was it?
It's Rapid Vienna and Joe Gordon or whatever. Joe Gordon or whatever that team is. Like Rapid Vienna.
Rapid Vienna are a big side, aren't they?
Rapid Vienna they won 1-0 away. They won 1-0 away, but it was an own goal.
But Rapid Vienna are currently 5th in the Austrian league, behind Sturm Graz, Austria.
So basically, it has to be the final, Fiorentina or Real Betis in the final, and that's about it. Basically, that is the first test. Not even the first test for Fiorentina and Real Betis before they meet each other in the semi-final, because Fiorentina won away and Real Betis won 2-0. So basically, it is going to be Chelsea against one of these two at the final. They are mediocre then. So, okay, Kings is saying, and that guy's saying they're all shit. Because I've no awareness of these teams.
That could even remotely.
Fiorentina are very strong, actually.
Wait, where are Fiorentina? Oh, yeah, Fiorentina.
So it's Fiorentina versus Real Betis in the semi-final, right?
Yeah.
So one of these teams will face Chelsea in the final, and that's going to be it, Like, you really have to win against these two teams. And that's about it. But I actually think if it means rotation in the Conference League, he shouldn't care about he should be making sure that they get to the Champions League next season.
Well, yeah. So your semi-finals will be between Everton at home and Liverpool at home, and then Liverpool at home and Newcastle away. And you're due to play. Well, that's going to have to change, surely, I think. As it stands, supposedly you've got a Saturday lunchtime kickoff against Newcastle.
I thought that had just been moved, but it might get moved.
Maybe it hasn't been updated on here yet, so I don't know. But yeah, you won't be able to play them at lunchtime on Saturday if you're playing in bloody Austria on the Thursday night.
Yeah, 100%. That would be crazy, actually. But yeah, I think it's going to change to a Monday or something like this. Guys, hit that like button and watch this. And I want the people to tell me what they think about this video that came across my Twitter.
And whoever did whatever happened last night in football, please do that again. I'm not really a football fan like that, but the way I'm waking up and seeing grown men jolly, I feel like if I were to open my window right now, I would see people skipping down the street. London has never felt so light and jolly. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened in that game last night. But whatever happened in that game last night needs to happen again. London feels like the place to be right now. I feel like if you're a football fan, period, like not even necessarily an Arsenal fan, whatever went down on that pitch yesterday, I'm here.
Does that actually happen in London when Arsenal won?
Yeah.
If she lives near the ground.
To an extent.
Maybe if she lives near the ground. I don't know. Do you know when England got to the final of the Euros and stuff against Italy? Like, London was crazy.
Yeah.
I'll send you videos. Though. It was absolutely unbelievable if you haven't seen it. Like, so I can imagine it. I remember when Chelsea won the league in 2017. Like, the whole of the King's Road, Fulham Road, absolutely mobbed with Chelsea fans everywhere. Like, they had to just shut the roads off when we beat West Brom away in the evening. So I can imagine it does.
Yeah.
What's the film, Rory? You know, there's an Arsenal movie where they win and then everyone just mobs the streets of Round Highbury. I can't think what it's called, but it's when you won it like years ago.
Bro, yeah. I mean, even when we won the FA Cup in like 2014, I think it was 2014. That time where we did a parade for it, where there's that clip of Jack Wilshere shouting, "What do we think of Tottenham?" Bro, it was like 250,000 people came to that parade for an FA Cup. Like, it is crazy. And when I was getting the tube back from the game, it was noticeable.
Pitch, that's the film.
Fever Pitch. Yeah,
Fever Pitch.
It was noticeable. Yeah, even getting the tube home after the game, just like everyone was just like laughing and smiling, almost in just disbelief, basically, of what we're seeing. It's great.
I'm not going to ask you what happened in the stadium because I know it was disbelief, right?
Yeah, it was crazy.
But like, it was crazy. But Real Madrid let this guy dunk.
Let's kick it. Rice, baby. Rice, baby. All right, stop. Elaborate and listen. Rice is back with my brand new invention. Something got a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon, daily and nightly. Will it ever stop, yo? I don't know. Turn off the lights, yo. And I'll glow to the extreme. I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up the stage and watch a light like a chapel. Dance. Gonna resonate. Killing that brain with the wickedness mushroom deadly. When I play it, don't bury me. Anything less is the best, it's a felony. Love it, I hate it, I let it game wait. You better hit the rules and clean, don't play. And if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Pick out the road with my DJ result. Rice, baby.
Basically, this guy dunked on Real Madrid.
Let him.
As
Isn't it
it's-
so good to
That's
see
it.
a footballer with personality as well?
Yeah.
Really? This is why I played the video. It's not only about people say it's cringe. No, it is funny. Just
Man,
by the way,
that's funny, man. That's
That
funny.
was
It is funny,
that was also not a bad performance, by the way.
What,
yeah,
that's singing?
that was not bad.
That singing. Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's
know.
yeah,
I was
it's
thinking
not
that. He's
bad,
actually
yeah.
pretty
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. And by the way, they played
It's,
they played that at full time, and like half the stadium were also singing and dancing to it. So
I can't
Yeah.
lie, I'm so jealous. I felt for years that his destiny was to come back to Chelsea. I'm so jealous, honestly. Like I love Declan Rice. I think he's brilliant. I think he gets so much hate. So he's just like the easy target. He needed a moment like that. I think it was unbelievable.
Yeah, he was ridiculous. Like, just the people that say that he only did the free kicks. It's not only that, you're just hating on him because he has been, like, to be honest with you, like, he has been performing well lately. He's been getting better by the game over the past like a month or two, but it's going under the radar because Arsenal are not winning the league, and basically, rightfully so. You need to criticize the team that should have won the league and didn't win the league. But to come up clutch like this, I think Sam said it yesterday when he did the Caicedo and Rice debate, and he opened his monologue by saying that these two moments are some of the biggest moments in a player's history, right? This is why maybe the debate is leaning towards Rice, because if you do these two free kicks now, and because the two players are still young, they're 24 and 23 in Caicedo and 24 or 25 for Rice. So they haven't had a long career yet at the top yet. Basically, this is their second year. You have to think that if you can produce something like this in a big game, that means more to come if Arsenal are to play these competitions for more years. And that is what I was thinking about it. Yes, yeah. I'm not here to debate Caicedo and Rice again. I did it yesterday. We did it yesterday and the year before. But for Arsenal now, okay, you don't think you're favorites at the Champions League? You don't, Rory.
no,
Right, good.
not quite, but I think it's really pretty close now.
Moments like that can swing it so much. Like if Arsenal take that momentum and don't lose it, that they could be.
Yeah, well, I think that's the thing. I think the performance and the result was like a huge thing for the mentality of like the club and the players to be like, this is where we belong, and like we can have nights like that. So yeah, if we can carry that mentality. The thing is, I think you look at it now, I think PSG are in an unbelievable form and look exceptionally good. Barcelona the same, and then Inter I really don't think you can write off either. So yeah, I think to sit there and say that they're
going about their business.
Yeah,
aren't
they are.
Yeah.
I don't think you can sit there and say that there's any strong favourite at the moment.
There was a talk about Arsenal would favor playing a Barcelona or a PSG over an Inter in the final if they are to reach the final because of the style of play. But one of the things I wanted to highlight, since this is the Rational League, is how Arteta is moving away from the Pep football towards more of the more adaptable brand of play. And I'm just going to give you an example, and I'm sure that you didn't watch the Inter game, of course, Rory, and I know that Dan was watching the Arsenal probably. In the Inter game, and if I tell you the stat of what happened, I'm just going to tell you, in the first half, Inter had 54% ball position, and in the second half, we had 29, and we still won 2-1. It's how some coaches now are turning into, I can do both aspects of the game. I can do both parts of the game. I don't have to have position all the time to execute my plan. And I also can defend in bulk, deep, and prevent the opposition from creating. And I think that is what Arteta has done. And people slagged me off when I released a video in the beginning of the season that said that Arsenal are built for tournament competition, for the Champions League, basically. That was my title. And I was referring to the way you adapt in the game and you don't have one way of playing football, which is Inzaghi is the same. Like, as I said, we are the lowest base position team left in the Champions League, but we average over 60% position in Serie A, which is a complete opposite parts of the spectrum. And Arteta can do this. And Arteta can do counter-attack, can do pressing, but Arteta did the opposite of what me and Rory have said, which is he actually went and pressed and attacked Real Madrid, which is, I don't think anyone expected that.
I did. I think the way I said it was that we would... No, I think the way I said it was that we would still press, because we always do. It was just that the defensive line may not be as high. And in fairness, the defensive line pretty much was as high. And there were a couple of opportunities where we nearly got caught out that early on Madrid couldn't capitalise on. There was that one where it was actually Saka, I think, made a blunder and Vinny Jr. was in, couldn't find Mbappe, and then Mbappe had that chance. But yeah, outside of that, we pressed them, and that's again where, like, you know, when you want to talk about the conversation of Declan Rice, not even comparing him to anyone else, before the free kicks, Declan Rice was the best player on the pitch. He dominated that midfield. He could have scored a header, so he was offensively, he was offering plenty, but like, yeah, he dominated that midfield. Thought Miles Lewis-Skelly was exceptional. And we've got such good one-on-one defenders as well, like Timber. Unbelievable against Vinny Jr. So
he's ridiculous, bro. He's old school defending, bullying and physically, and
off the back of an ACL as well, which is crazy.
Like I was enjoying that.
I was so worried actually for him. I thought, like, is it because it looked quite bad, didn't it, in the first half? I genuinely was a little bit
but so he's actually like not just obviously he's off the back of that ACL last season, but he's also playing through like multiple, because of his style of play, which is like very aggressive. He's playing through loads of like knocks where you'd probably rest a player, but we can't really at the moment. So.
Which player stood out for you then in this game?
I think, right, like Rory said, Rice was dominating that midfield away from those free kicks. I mean, I think the reason he probably had the confidence to hit those free kicks was because he knew he was running that game. I mean, every single time he got on the ball, he was willing to carry it, beat players, take them on. And physically, he was just so up for it. I think he thrived in that moment more than I expected him or a couple of other players to do, I think. And I think someone like that stepping up in that moment is so key going forward for Arsenal, because they'll go, you know what, Dijk did it against Madrid. I want to show that I'm capable of doing it as well. I thought Saka was unreal. I didn't feel like I was looking at a guy that wasn't fully fit, had to just sort of come back. When you're comparing him to what Vinny, Mbappe, Rodrigo were doing, there was only one player out there that I thought was potentially in a conversation for a Ballon d'Or or something like that. I thought he clearly looked like the best winger on the pitch.
Saka, I have to say that half-fit Saka looked better than all the Real Madrid wingers. It's not only better than them, he looked more confident than all of them on the ball. Like, he wasn't shook by the Rudiger or Bellingham or Alaba trying to dribble on him. He was just, that second free kick that he won, he dribbled past like 3 or 4 players before they take him down. That's just confidence going through his veins, which is what big players do in these moments. And I thought that he was absolutely phenomenal. He showed everyone who's boss, to be honest. I like Bukayo Saka. I think he's a top-notch player.
Madrid an awful lot of problems was Thomas Partey in that sort of right channel that he was just dropping back off into to stop Vinny and Mbappe sort of dominating that space. I felt like Partey just read it like a book every time. He obviously doesn't have the pace and the legs that some of the other players on the pitch might have, but it didn't look like it was a problem to him at all. He was just so ahead of the curve in terms of reading that game.
Would you keep him at the club one more year?
Yeah, I would at this point, yeah. I think you look at the situation that we've got, the other work that we need to do. I just think, you're losing Jorginho. Okay, so you bring in Zubamendi to replace him. But I would give Partey probably just another year at this point.
Partey, Zubamendi, Rice, Moreno, and Odegaard. I still think you need an attacking midfielder. Still.
Well, I think we've got Waneri, who I do think they will consider as both Saka and Odegaard backup. Max Dowman's coming through, who they genuinely rate more highly than any young player we've had, even Waneri and Miles Lewis-Skelly. And then we've been looking at Sverre Nipan as well, who could just be like a budget buy for like 10 million.
Is that the guy you were linked with in January?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
So you just keep Partey and just get Zubamendi for that midfield and just move on with your life in that midfield. I think you lack creativity in that midfield still. I still think you need an attacking midfielder that will create, to be honest. Just because of the wingers are shut down. You need...
Yes, but I think we're beginning to see that creativity is coming from like Miles Lewis-Skelly coming through from left back into that midfield. Like the amount of times, obviously, set up the Marino goal. There was that moment where he played it through Camavinga's legs and then Valverde's legs, which nearly resulted in a goal. So I think because we don't play with a central attacking midfielder, I think the idea is we try and create from the wings, and then if we're not creating from there, it's then the two inside channels rather than going through the middle. But it'll be interesting to see what we do when we've got a proper striker. Because then which is
now one of the points now, which is what we want to talk about the show. It looks like Arsenal are going to beat everyone for Gyokeres. And the reason why is the wage they are willing to offer him. These are the reports that it's not footy judgment. I'm not a journalist. It's what you read in the morning. Arsenal are willing to outbid everyone in terms of the wages for Viktor Gyokeres, which is making him a 200k plus bonuses, and offer him a 5-year contract. I have some questions about the Gyokeres thing, and there are a lot of talk about, does he suit the system? Is he someone that suits the system? Is he someone that complements the system? Does he complement Havertz? Is Havertz now a bench player? Where does Havertz play? Because Havertz makes 280k. Like you need to make use of him or sell him, basically. Right?
Yep.
Is it a pressure? Because I have a question, and I want to ask both of you this question. It's a very important question. Do you think you looking like, instead of signing Cisco, signing Gyokeres now, is that them caving to the pressure of the fans about signing established ready-made players? Or is that actually out of they're convinced that they need someone like Gyokeres? Because Cisco is the project player basically for Arsenal. Which one do you think it is? Is it caving or is change of plans with Berta arriving?
It's André Berta. To all intents and purposes, André Berta has come in and he had extensively scouted, or his team had extensively scouted Gyokeres at Atletico Madrid, and he came in and he wants him. And it's an interesting one for the kind of power battle, because we know our recruitment team wanted Sesko over Gyokeres.
Yes,
but I do
exactly.
think we're at a point now, I look at the game against Real Madrid. In the first half, Gyokeres probably scores at least 2 goals. Those balls that Saka flashes across the box, there's a reason Gyokeres has 40 goals from inside the box so far this season. We create so many of those opportunities. I just think you'd be foolish not to bring someone like him in. I saw a stat. He's in the 99th percentile for strikers across Europe for converting shots to goals. Whereas Sesko is relatively midway. I think Gyokeres has scored 30-something goals from 90-something shots. So it's like almost a goal every 3 shots. Sesko's is closer to 1 in every 5.5, 1 in every 6. And you're probably more likely to find a Gyokeres in the box than a Sesko, because I think his reading of those situations is better. So I can understand why we want to do that now. And like you were saying, actually, I think the really smart thing to do would be to bring in a Delap as well. You bring in Gyokeres at 27, you bring in Delap at 21, you spend 100 million on the two of them, and you're set in the striker position potentially.
You need to sell Havertz. You need to take a loss on Havertz if that is the case, because you have Jesus at your ranks.
No, but
because
Jesus,
you can't sell Jesus.
Jesus goes.
You can't sell him
we can't
because
sell
he has
him
an ACL.
now. Yeah, fine. But if we know we can get rid of him somehow afterwards, I mean, depending on how far we go in the Champions League, you're looking at potentially earning another 30 to 50 million quid just off the Champions League, getting from here to the finals. So, yeah, I think now's the time where you've got to...
Go ahead. No, go ahead. That was like the question.
I think now's the time where you've got to spend, to the very limit of your ability to kick on from where we are, rather than being cautious.
I have a couple of questions for Dan. Just, is he a better fit to Arsenal than Isak and Osimhen as the three main strikers in the world?
I don't know about Isak. I don't know if he's a better fit than Isak, but I do think probably better than Osimhen. I think he probably is. I think he... Look, if Bert has done his due diligence on him and he's well aware of what he possesses as a striker, then I would back that. I think he's made so many signings that have worked out well, especially in forward areas, that I think Arsenal would be right to sort of maybe rip up what they had planned and go, do you know what, we're going to go with this. Because how many strikers have Atletico Madrid had over the years that have turned out to be very, very good, and they've sort of been perfect for that type of football. I think maybe you have to get rid of someone to make way for another striker to come in on top of Gyokeres, though. I think if you're going to talk about that, like you were saying, with potentially Liam Delap coming in as well, I think someone's not going to be happy around game time. And I think that could be Havertz, because I can't see Havertz being over the moon with sort of losing a position. At the moment, it's obvious that he is going to start up front for Arsenal currently. If you go and bring in Gyokeres, all of a sudden, Havertz is going to look at it and go, right, I've got competition in this position now. If you then bring in Delap as well, or something like that, Havertz will be looking, going, hang on a minute, where is my position?
I'm not even in the plan, huh? He's not even in the plan.
I would then think that, hang on, Thomas Muller's leaving Bayern Munich. That would sort of be something that I could see Bayern Munich looking to as a player like Havertz. If that was to happen, by the way, I'm just sort of piecing together puzzle pieces there. But
maybe.
I think Havertz can play in a number of different positions, though. But I think he's at a position in his career now where he probably wants to be nailed on, knowing that he's going to be one of the starting players in Arsenal's team. I mean, he could play in that sort of midfield role, couldn't he, as well, that we've seen him do before?
Yeah. I think that's where he'd look at it. And I think to be honest, I don't really care how Kai Havertz feels. I don't really care how any player feels about whether or not they're a guaranteed starter. We're in a position now where the best way to build strength in a squad is to build on strength. And so you don't look at a Kai Havertz and go, well, yeah, he could be improved upon, but we don't want to hurt his feelings. You go, well, we're going to bring in competition for him.
I completely buy that, Rory. You see with Mourinho and Havertz, how they've sort of been playing a similar role to each other, with one being out injured and the other not. Who do you think sort of helps Arsenal more in that position when they're sort of playing out of position and they're stepping into that role? Is it Mourinho now? He's obviously got unbelievable numbers since he stepped in there.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I think Mourinho is a better finisher than Kai Havertz.
That finish the other night was unbelievable.
It was. Mo, you laugh, but I think
I know why I'm laughing, right? Because you're saying this off the back of that finish. But he actually was slandered by a lot of Arsenal fans because of his not finishing chances, not being at the end of chances, where you would think that Kai Havertz would be in the right place at the right time, and he would finish some of these headers, right?
Right.
So you're a reactionary a little bit here.
No, I'm not at all. Because they are two different traits. Kai Havertz creates far more opportunities for himself because he understands better where to be. But then how many of those chances does he miss? Mikel Merino, once he gets the opportunity, Mikel Merino is a far better finisher maybe not far better finish, but a better finish. He's got 6 goals in 9 games.
His
from
movement
not that
good
many
though,
chances
as well. It's not like I've said before. I think Kai Havertz's movement off the ball is right up there at the very top. But I think maybe there's something to say that his movement off the ball could be right up there in terms of the Premier League forwards. I think it's that good. I used to say that at Chelsea, and I just don't think that he ever had the service. But yeah, you're right. He misses chances. But Marino's movement's not been bad at all. I mean, that movement for the goal the other night. Drops off the defender, peels back, works that opportunity. I think of a couple of headers when in that first game that he went and played there. He was aware and lively that he had to get to that area of the box to score those goals.
Yeah, that movement's not bad. It's more when we stretch teams that his move. So, like when you see Saka flash it across, maybe Marino knows he's meant to be there, but it's almost like Saka has that burst of pace to the byline and pulls it across, and Marino's just physically incapable of keeping up with it. And I would say Havertz stretches defenses more than Marino, again because of the fact that he's a fair bit quicker and can press better. But no, it's a close one, and the reality is we bought both of them in, I guess, as midfielders. We've never truly known what we bought Havertz in specifically to do. Arteta's always said that he bought him in as a versatile player that could play in multiple positions, so I guess he's proven that. But the point is, it's clear that an elite striker scores a lot more goals than either of them as a striker. And so then they can figure out,
Aren't you afraid of him being another Darwin Núñez? I'm just being devil's advocate. I'm not saying that. It's not my opinion. Yeah.
Maybe, but...
I think there's a little bit less of an erraticness to his game than there was to Darwin's, even at Benfica in the same league. I think Darwin always had that.
Yeah, the difference between him and Darwin for me, first of all, he's done it in England, which, yes, it was the Championship, and yes, it's not the same level. But if you're comparing it at least to like the bottom half of the Premier League size to the Championship, there is a level there in the Championship. But secondly, he's now proven over multiple seasons that his finishing is, like I said, in the 99th percentile in Europe. Darwin Núñez had not done that at all. And so I'm confident that at a very simple level, if we create as many chances as we do on a regular basis, Gyokeres will find the back of the net an awful lot.
I actually think that Gyokeres will take Saka to the next level. And I think actually Gyokeres offers Arsenal something they don't have, which is the physical, we have seen it in the Sporting Lisbon game against Arsenal, which is, I think he's deadly on the transition in the counter-attack. And if Arsenal, I think that will allow Arteta to actually be more comfortable sitting deeper. If he's 1-0 lead, you can sit deep and you know that you have a very quick and physical striker that can stretch the opposition. That will force the opposition to have at least 2 to 3 defenders back to actually fend off for themselves against a guy like Gyokeres. Especially if you have Saka with that quickness and the tricks and all the stuff that he does with Gyokeres. He can literally just leave these two to do the transition and the counter-attack and then have everyone else defend. I think that gives him another weapon. I think it is exciting time for Arsenal if they get these signings over the line. If they get Zubimendi and Gyokeres over the line. If we go and see at the end of the summer window that Arsenal have a Cisco and another midfield that we don't know and a left winger that is up and coming, I'll just have to say that it's not a gun. To be honest, it's not again. And I'm just waiting because I think with Liverpool keeping Van Dijk and Salah, they'll get stronger. Arsenal, if they sign Gyokeres, I think they'll get stronger. I think this Champions League is going to give them a massive push, actually, guys. Like a massive push for next season. This win against Real Madrid, if they get the job done, which is, I think, do we all agree that this job is done? Okay.
No, it's not done, but I think it's highly likely that we go through.
I think the tie's over anyway. That's just me.
I think the difference between when people look at various examples of the big comebacks in Champions League history, not just where Real Madrid have done it, but where other teams do it. If you look through the vast majority of them, the teams that are on the receiving end of that overturn are not the best defensive teams. Like they've taken a 3-4-0 lead because they're a very good attacking team, but they're not the best defensive teams. Arsenal haven't conceded 3 goals in over 500 days. The last time we lost a game by 3 goals was 698 days ago against Brighton when we'd already packed in the season. Even if Madrid could score 3 against us, which I don't think they could or will, I also then don't see them keeping a clean sheet against us. Because
that also isn't enough, is it? They really have got to get 4 unless they rely on penalties.
unless it goes to penalties, yeah. But I just, if they were to score 3, I don't see them keeping a clean sheet again. I thought they were so vulnerable defensively. Camavinga's now suspended. They get Tchouaméni back. It's been confirmed Mendy's not going to be fit, so they're still going to have to play
Alaba or Ferran Garcia, one of them.
Garcia, yeah. So yeah, I
don't see Real Madrid come back at all. I think Arsenal.
Did you see Carlo's face when they asked him? Have you seen that in the press conference? He does like such a weird face. I have to try and find it, but I think it's impossible to write them off, isn't it? When they've got a guy that's capable of scoring a hat trick in a World Cup final. They've got Bellingham, who's a huge moments player. Like, they've got players that step up in those moments, and it's Real Madrid. Like, they've got 15 on their shirt for a reason. But
yeah, you cannot completely rule them out. But I even think this weekend Arsenal are a bit of an advantage. Like, we play Brentford at home tomorrow. I think we'll just heavily rotate. No one gives a shit about the Premier League now.
How much did the Everton game pay off, Rory? Do you think in that fixture?
A lot. I think
so.
And then going into, whereas Madrid play on Sunday afternoon away in La Liga, where they have to go full strength and try and win that game, because otherwise that's basically La Liga over for them. And you would argue La Liga is their better opportunity still to win a trophy this season than the Champions League now, given that they're 3-0 down. So, yeah, I think we've got a day extra rest than them after the weekend, and we're in a stronger position.
What is this conversation about the Aretat out after this game? Does that change anything?
Yeah, of course it does.
Why? Why one game changes everything?
Because one of the biggest arguments against Arteta was big game, big moments. He couldn't get the team to step up.
Right.
And I think
But it's one game, though. It's just one game.
Yeah.
I'm playing devil's advocate. You get that, of course. But
that one game is that one game is the proof.
Is the proof of what?
Because the idea it had been, well, I mean, even though we'd only had one Champions League game Champions League campaign previously, it was, well, scraped past Porto and then lost to Bayern. You don't have the minerals for the big European nights. That was the biggest European night really for us since like 2006.
Yeah.
And they stepped up in a way that I don't think any Arsenal fan has seen. So
I think tactically he proved to everyone. Okay, here is what I put it yesterday on the Football Terrace as well. I said that yesterday Arteta proved to everyone that you cannot just say that Arteta is a bad coach. You have to just sit down and admit that tactically and as a football coach and man management, he's good. He made Kivior, even after the mistake, play with the confidence on the front foot, versus the biggest team in Europe, in front of 60,000 anxious fans in the stadium, where everyone said, and I know that players read the news, and I know that social media, everyone said, I don't want to see you starting the game. So for Arteta to have the balls to start this man and play on the front foot, and even after the mistake, the guy is composed, that is just credit to Mikel Arteta and the player, of course. The second thing is the tactics. That everyone told Arteta, sit deep, don't press, don't play on the front foot. And he's like, no, you don't know. I know. I know how to beat this Real Madrid team. I'm going to play on the front foot. And the two chances that Real Madrid created, by the way, they were bad passes. One from Kivior, one from Saka. It wasn't like Arsenal were outplayed, cut through. And no, it was just a couple of bad passes because of...
They created 0.5 XG in the entire game. And this is the thing. And if you look back to the start of the season, you look at that back four. At the start of this season, you had Jurriën Timber, who had basically not played for the club and was coming off the back of an ACL. You had Jakub Kivior, who's fourth, fifth choice centre-back. And you have Miles Lewis-Skelly, who's an 18-year-old who had never played a single minute of senior football before this season. And he's, with that back four, kept a clean sheet and conceded 0.5 XG. And then at the other end of the pitch, with a half-fit Bukayo Saka and Mikel Merino up top, a £30 million central midfielder, he's put 3 past Real Madrid. And even that in itself, you look back to the January transfer window, where Arteta himself was pretty much begging to bring in a striker. When that didn't happen, he still somehow figured out a way of taking a £30 million central midfielder, putting him up top. And Mikel Merino scores 6 goals in 9 games up top since February. I think there's only 2 players in the Premier League that have scored more goals in all competitions in that time. That's more goals than Marmoush, Salah. So he's done a better job. If we'd bought in a striker, I think in January, and he'd scored 6 goals in 9 games, we'd have gone, what a signing that was. That was it. He's hit the ground running, and yet he's somehow done that with a midfielder. So yeah, I think anyone that doubts him. I mean, to be honest, there was a guy stood next to me, and it was one of those. Sometimes you get unlucky and you end up sat next to an absolute pillock. And at halftime in the game, he was saying to the person, so he was here and his friend was here, and I was sat between them. And he was saying to him at halftime, bear in mind, halftime, right? We've just really yeah, and bear in mind, we've just outplayed really Real Madrid.
You demolished at halftime.
Even though it was 0-0, we'd
Yeah.
outplayed them completely. And he's ranting and that Arteta, he's got them all playing like robots, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, sorry, we've just witnessed Arsenal outplay Real Madrid, keep a clean sheet in the first half, and should have scored 2 or 3, and you're still raging at Arteta. I'm like, there's some people that I just don't think you'll ever be able to convince. And he was also saying that Luka Modric had been running the show. He was going, oh, that's a world-class midfielder. I was like, okay. But that's the thing. I do still think there will be people
I thought Thomas Partey was the one who was running the show in that midfield, to be honest.
Yeah. The guy was just
it was very obvious that after the first 15 minutes, Thomas Partey was the one dictating the pace of the game, because he got the ball from the both defenders, and he was the one choosing to go right, left, central, quickly, easy, pass it back. It was plenty, because Arsenal had 60% possession with Thomas Partey getting the most touches. How can someone sit in the stadium and think that Modric was running the show?
But it was all based on like preconceived ideas, and this is where people won't change their opinion, even if what they're seeing in front of them, like. So he was saying, oh, Modric, he just drifts into space and no one can track him, and then he gets to dictate. And it's like, yeah, but he's also getting absolutely bullied physically by Declan Rice. But the point is, you will still find people that will be Arteta out. You will find people that if we don't win the Champions League this season, despite it only being our second Champions League campaign, despite the injury, there will still be people that will say that's a sackable offence, even if we get to the final, for example, right? Which would be our second Champions League final in history. So that's the reality. But I think the vast majority of Arsenal fans probably understand.
They were happy with the performance, right? Like they were happy with the 100%. Like I can't just, bro. Like,
and even the fact that when we went 1-0 up, but I think just the general feeling was actually like Madrid are on the ropes here, and so we kept going. We got the third goal, and there's, if you look at the bench cam from the third goal, the second Lewis Skelly gets the ball and that space opens up, Arteta is literally like, go forward. So, yeah, the idea that, he's whatever they call him and would have just taken a 1-0, I think it's clear that he's...
Miles Lewis Skelly, to be honest, like, he is phenomenal. He's amazing.
That is ridiculous.
It's so good, like, on the ball, like, the confidence of an 18 years old. With all due respect, he used to be like 8 years old watching Modric play football and just clap or something. Yeah, like, you remember this guy 10 years ago when Modric was winning like Champions Leagues with Ronaldo and Toni Kroos. He was watching him, probably admiring Modric. He comes on the pitch against the guy, and Courtois as well. Probably he used to watch Courtois at Chelsea, right? And he's coming against him, and he was fearless, to be honest. Just fearless. And I admire players like these, and 18 years old, that is just fearless. That doesn't care.
Yeah, he actually, his mentality actually makes everyone else around him as well be that little bit more brave, because the way he plays, he almost doesn't give players a choice but to be as aggressive. So he'll always play it in front of a player. He'll be like, go forward. He'll always fizz it in. Even the assist for Marino, if you watch it back, he fizzes it into Marino and basically says, you're shooting first time, because there's no... Like, he could have rolled it nicely into him and then Marino could take a touch or whatever. He's like, no, you're going to shoot here. And that, I think, is like... And Saka's growing that mentality as well. We saw that Saka was the one that said to Rice, basically, for that first free kick, if you're feeling it, go for it.
Go for it.
I do think, to an extent, that shift in mentality is something that we need a little bit. I think when you've looked at games this season where we've been a little bit passive, a little bit robotic, I think the more players that are willing to just back themselves and take it on, and Saka's done that all season to an extent, which has been noticeable that he's been a bit more selfish. I think it's good.
I can't remember teenagers being that confident. Probably I saw Hazard play for Leia because that season he was amazing. At that time, he was the confidence going through his veins was ridiculous. Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, like at Manchester United, the confidence of these players were just ridiculous. And I think that Miles Lewis-Kelly, I'm not saying that he's Cristiano Ronaldo, but the confidence, the way he stood in that pitch and just driving with the ball in the heart of that defense of Real Madrid, dribbling 2 players. Because remember, he should have had an assist for Martinelli if it wasn't for Courtois when he played it through the legs of Asensio, right? He should have had another assist.
No, it's Valverde. Played it through the legs of
there's Valverde or Asensio. Oh, yeah.
Arsenal put out a clip of it because I thought that he'd kind of brute forced his way through Camavinga, but he played it through Camavinga's legs and then through Valverde's legs, and you're just like, this guy is crazy. And physically as well. I think you don't normally see 18-year-olds that are as strong as he is physically. Like, there were a couple of times where he's going shoulder to shoulder with Jude Bellingham and winning that physical battle. And I loved it right at the end. Bellingham, like, pretended that he'd been stamped on by Miles Lewis-Kelly. And as he was running away, Miles Lewis-Kelly just kind of looked back to Jude Bellingham rolling around the floor and just went, get up, mate. Like,
do you know who was that confident
to win?
Yeah. Miles Lewis-Kelly has this nasty thing about him. Yeah. And he's kind of like, okay, he like makes fouls for himself, dives, rattles up positions, which is a nasty side for some players to have. But I don't think he's like a rat, like Bernardo Silva or something like that.
That's what I was saying before that game, is that they're the sort of things that Madrid can't cope with, and Arsenal had to get under their skin.
Timber,
and I think Miles Lewis-Kelly, Timber, they did a really, really good job of that. Like, they're frustrating players to play against.
We saw
Timber. Timber was ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly right. That's what I was trying to get to, the point that there are players there that will lose their head. I think Bellingham is the type of guy that he could get rattled as well. I think he could potentially lose his head if it's.
He was rattled. He was flying in. He was lucky that the players were passing the ball before he arrived.
Exactly. I think if you make a team like Madrid do that, I think you win it. I think that is so key, and I think Arsenal did it absolutely excellently. Like, really
the one that was so scared is Vinny Jr. because he knew, bro. 10 minutes in, I know he's like, Timber is gonna get me another yellow, and I'll be suspended. He was so careful about Timber, and Timber was so close to him. I know you were in the stadium, but I'm not sure if you saw the signs of like Timber was not leaving him an inch to like. He was waiting for that elbow or that push after them. The ball goes to a throw or dispossession. He was waiting for it. And there was one that Timber dispossessed him. And then Vinny kind of leaned into him and Timber was like, he's like, I didn't do anything. Don't give me the yellow card. And I'm like, okay, this guy knows that Timber is on his case to get him a second yellow. I like these things. And people think, oh, it's dark arts. I'm sure Ancelotti is telling his players to get on that player who has a yellow card to get him suspended. It's just how football works.
The thing is, even people that have played football at like, our level of Sunday League or five-a-side or whatever, you know how much you hate coming up against someone who is just constantly there, like on your back, just like physically just imposing themselves on you. It's just annoying. When every time you get the ball, it's straight away, a little niggle in the back or in the back of the foot or whatever. Like, and Timber is one of those players. And the thing was, Timber himself was one booking away from suspension. So it was kind of like I was worried in the game that he'd get himself booked, but fortunately, none of the Arsenal players.
I was happy with the performance. I was happy that people got humbled and knew that football is not about the flicks and tricks, and it's not about the Jojo and the ho-ho and the dodo thing. It's about who works harder. And that's why people, you support. Number one, I want Real Madrid out because I still have a chance to win the competition. And I know that if Real Madrid does the final, it's a 0 chance of anybody winning it but Real Madrid. So I want Real Madrid out. The second thing is that everyone that ruled out Arsenal and said that Arsenal have no chance, and you just watch Arsenal play the tactical game. And Declan Rice said with Thierry Henry, basically, that we thought about the game as 11 men versus 11 men, and we just have to play our football and take our chances and be fearless. And that proves that anybody can beat anybody. It's not about, and Arsenal are not bums, to be honest. If I say it this way, it's so disrespectful to Arsenal that anyone can beat anyone. Arsenal are not bums. Like they have, it's the second best team in England at the current moment. Without a number 9 and without Gabriel, they're still second in the league. So it's just a testament to how tactics can change a fortune of a team and how a good coach can change your fortune in a competition. Last thing before we end the show is that if Arsenal reached the semi-final, did he overachieve? Did he exceed expectations? As this question was asked yesterday.
So I would have said before the season started, if you get to the semi-final, you should be aiming at least getting to the semi-finals because that's progress on last year where we got to the quarterfinals and we should be good enough. But then I also caveated that by saying it always depends on who you get, right? So if you get a Real Madrid in the round of 16 or the quarterfinals, then that maybe changes it. So I'd say not based on the start of the season, but based on the position of going into, okay, you've got Real Madrid and you've got a half-fit Saka and no Gabriel and Mikel Merino up front, then I would say, yeah, that is an overachievement.
It is an overachievement because expectations change during the season, especially with that. As I agree with you, it is overachievement. It is absolutely... It's exceeding expectations for a team that was with Atletico Madrid, or Real Madrid, and everyone gave them a zero chance. So I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I also think and look, we don't know what's going to happen in the second leg, but let's assume it's a relatively drama-free game and Arsenal still go through by 3 goals. I think the way that we've done it is also far beyond people's expectations. If we'd maybe shithoused our way with like a 1-0 and then a 0-0 or something like that, then or on penalties or something, then that's one thing. But I think the fact that really from start to finish in that first leg, we outplayed them in the way that we did and were ruthless enough to take a 3-0 lead, I think that's probably more surprising for people.
Yeah, listen, that was absolutely phenomenal and fantastic and great. I'm just happy for Declan Rice as well to prove people wrong after all the criticism. Lewis Kelly, Timber, Saliba. By the way, Saliba was the best defender on the pitch. No argument about Rudiger. And remember, we had this conversation about Saliba versus Rudiger, and I said, no, Saliba is better than Rudiger. Rudiger just plays at Real Madrid, basically. That's why people think he's great.
Yeah. The big thing for Saliba, I thought, was obviously he's had a season where a lot of people have kind of swayed towards Gabriel being the more important defender. And I think he himself admitted it's not been his best season, but he had to step up as kind of the leader of that defense, where Gabriel generally has been more of that. Like with Kivior next to him, he had to step up and do that kind of leadership side of it, and he did that exceptionally well.
I think he's just a better defender than Rudiger. I think he has way higher
than he's ever been, though.
Okay. Saliba's only 22.
Yeah, I know, but I think Rudiger got to a level that I don't think Saliba's been at yet. I think
what level? When
he was part of a team that only conceded 1 goal winning the Champions League.
That's which team is that? That's
Chelsea.
Do you conceded 1 goal during the whole campaign, or in
was
the
that not what it was?
Don't know. It was maybe. I don't know if it was that. It
was like very small amount of goals conceded.
It was maybe 1 in the knockout stages.
In the knockouts since Thomas Tuchel came in. But remember, Thomas Tuchel played the back 3.
Oh yeah. Thomas
Tuchel played the back 3. Thomas Tuchel played the back 3. It's different.
But I think Rudiger was unbelievable in that final as well when we won it. I don't think he's got I'm not saying that Saliba can't, and I'm not saying Saliba's not close. Right now, I think Saliba probably is better than Rudiger, but I think Rudiger's been at a level that I don't know if Saliba's at yet. Will be probably if he carries on the way he is.
Yeah. Is there can I ask a question before we end the show? Is there a feedback coming from my mic?
Don't think so.
No, okay. So someone just saying this. But listen, people, this has been an absolutely great show. Congratulations to Rory. Congratulations to Dan for winning your games. Good luck this weekend. I don't think it matters at all for Arsenal, but we're still going to be live tomorrow at 9:30 UK time, guys. Reacting to the games. That's what we do. And Tuesday is not important. We'll see about Wednesday. Thank you, Dan, for joining us. Congratulations. Good luck against who do you play this weekend? Ipswich. You're going to win against Ipswich, and it's going to be great. And this guy is going to take you to Hussam versus Igal. I don't know what that show is about, but probably Hussam is going to try to flip it that Igal is something. But listen, big up Igal, big up Hussam. Dan, Tom, and Rory, legends as well. We'll see you guys on Monday. Hit the like button before you go, and we're out of here, people.